Hello, good evening, and welcome to the CantinaMX podcast that deals with the world of soccer, mainly Mexican soccer, but we do touch about other aspects of the beautiful game and other parts of the world. For those of you that are listening to the first time, we're happy that you're with us. For those of you longtime listeners, as always, we appreciate your patronage and your loyalty. My name is John Jagu. Glad to have you with us here on the CantinaMX podcast that we are podcasting, live every Thursday night as we are wont to do. Trying to get back to our, I guess, what I would call a summer schedule before things get super crazy for us again in the fall and winter, where we'll have uh, guerrilla Cantina MX podcasts. That could happen at any time. We'll talk about that a little later on, but we have a lot to get to. We have a couple of pressing topics. We have a fallout from the final. We're going to talk about fracaso de los sub-20. And we're also going to talk a little Gold Cup as it starts getting closer and closer. And the implications of all of that. So without further ado, let's jump right in. But I can't do that before first introducing the other member of this particular podcast, the second half, the better half, I think, of the gentleman's Joel Aceves joins us from Irvine, California. I am in Lago Vista, Texas. Joel, buenas noches, señor.
Greetings, John. I just found out something interesting a few minutes ago.
Well, hang on a sec. Hang on. Is this
No, not football related.
Oh, not football related.
Nah. I was looking at the Irvine Standard, and it said that Irvine houses Taco Bell's corporate headquarters and their test kitchen. So I'm not too far from the birthplace of the Enchilito, the Quesalupa, and Doritos Tacos Locos.
You know, for somebody who mashes, because Spanish is so easy to mash words together. Like, here's as an example, we have my wife, her dearest friend, her name is Charisma Machado. So because she has the cha in charisma and the macha in her last, Machado, I call her, and affectionately, mind you, La Chamacha. And she thinks it's hilarious. I mean, and so the enchilito, is you have an enchilada, you have a burrito. So it's a very easy way to mishmash some words.
I didn't know that's what it stood for. It just enchilito was like, to me, it was like an enigma wrapped in a riddle.
Right.
I don't know what I was eating. But
well, do you remember back in the day when they when they were a little more cavalier with their ingredients, and they used to put all the black olives on, because you can't have Mexican food without black olives.
Yeah, that's you're going pretty far back there, Yon.
That's right.
I remember. I don't know if I ever had something with the black olives, but I do remember seeing them. I don't know about in Texas, but did you guys have those, like, what was it called, Poppin' Taco?
I don't know. I have no idea what you're talking about. The what?
It was called Poppin' Taco. It was like one of the. It was It's actually pup, P-U-P.
Oh, okay.
And then the letter N.
Right.
And then taco.
No, y'all have Del Taco, if I'm not mistaken. And Del Taco, frankly, is they use a spectrum of ingredients that I'm not particularly a fan of.
No, I don't really go there.
Well, I went there once. Actually, it was in Utah, but I figured that they're also in California because the name like that, But yeah, it was not what I was expecting. I'll just I don't want to upset our friends at Del Taco, because frankly, if Del Taco came calling and said, "Hey, what if it was the Del Taco Cantina MX podcast?" I think all of us would go, "Where do we sign?" So
that is true.
Yes, but however, yeah, absolutely true. So we have. Let's start, Joel, if you don't mind. And thank you for that information about. So yeah. So how far are you from the Taco Bell worldwide headquarters?
I don't know. I read it Is this like newsletter we get?
So should we be thankful, or should we be that Irvine is the home of Taco Bell? They must employ a lot of the Irvine community. So they're helping out.
Yeah, I didn't even know. So
They're talking about. Anyway, back to football.
football, yes.
I do have to just one last thing. I have to admit, I'm a big fan. I am a big fan of the enchilada.
You, I'm at the yeah, I'm at to go get one after this.
Yeah, because all the enchilada is a combo burrito with sauce poured on top. I mean, let's be honest. That's what it is. But we are going to move on. We are moving on. Fall off in the final. So Tigres when their seventh final overall. It was their fifth final of the decade and their fourth since 2015. And a very reasonable claim to consider that this decade has been la década del tigre. I don't think anybody can deny that. There's it's this was their time to shine. They had things went well for Tigres over the past 5 years. I mean, it really should be a model franchise or model club for Liga MX teams, especially lucrative Liga MX teams to follow. And to me, the big one is don't fire your coach. Let your coach stay there for a bit.
Yeah, I mean he's getting the job done. I know the criticism has been over style.
Who I mean, again, it's like, do you think Tuca cares, or Tigres fans care that I'm not going to celebrate this title as much because frankly I didn't like their style of play, so I'm not going to
Yeah,
savor it
no.
as much as the others.
What did they have? Three league titles before he joined?
Two. They have seven, so he has five. He personally has
Wow.
seven because in addition, and this is why I've never understood why people want to. In addition to his five titles at Tigres, he won one at Pumas in
Yes.
2009, and then of course they celebrated by letting Tuca go to Tigres the very next season, as Pumas is wont to do. And he also, Joel, if I'm not mistaken, in 1997, his first gig ever, his first gig as what team did he coach, Joel?
Chivas.
So why are more Chivas fans Tuca fans?
We have selective amnesia.
Because it seems to me, Joel, like the person who was able to bring the Chivas comet into orbit, and into the Earth's orbit, so it can be seen from right down here on Earth. That person should have almost immortal status for Chivas. The way that they adore uh, Almeida. Why isn't there that level of adoration for Tuca? He did the same thing.
I guess because it's been so long. It was like 97.
Sure.
So yeah, fans forget, but Tuca right now, so he has 7 league titles.
7 league titles.
He's tied with Nacho Treyes as the most winning coaches in Liga MX.
And who did Nacho Treyes coach for? Joel?
Treyes, he won with Marte.
Right.
Now no longer. He won with Zacatepec. Um, and then he won with Toluca and finished off with Cruz Azul.
I want Zacatepec to be in Liga MX. Joel. It needs to happen. I hope it
You
happens.
you do know who owns that club.
Well, then you know what? Then he should go run that
Is
club.
is the lesser of would it be the lesser of two evils?
Well, how on earth can people allow that to happen? I mean, how can Liga MX allow Santos to come in and run Atlas, which is essentially what's happening?
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine, Joel, if Jerry Jones announced the Washington Redskins front office is going to run the soccer end of our team. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, no, we're very forgiving at when it comes to football and Liga MX.
Yeah.
We'll be outraged for a day and then we forget.
All right. So my question to you, Joel, where does this Tigres team deserve to be considered a team of the decade?
I say they are. I've heard the counter arguments all of a sudden because they haven't won an international tournament, and I find it a bit hypocritical when same these same these same journalists would downplay the Conca champions.
Right. It's
So,
only it's only
but
important when they want it to be important.
yeah, but as far as the league is concerned, uh, just just in the country, yeah, they are. They are. If you want to call them in the region, then yeah, I would say they need the regional titles. But just at home, just in Mex, they are. I mean, their results speak for themselves.
Sure. You're absolutely right. The Tigres is a team that since 2011, and then of course more recently they've won. In the two seasons they've won one of those every year for the past 4 years, for 4 seasons, and they did one, and the reality is that they have been for the most of the decade have been contenders, whether they've won finals or not. And Tuca has been to, I think it's like, well, he has obviously won 7 finals because he has 7, and I think he's lost 6, but that means he's played, he's coached in 13. It's not bad. It's not a bad record. I think I would take any coach who has coached in 13 finals, because one thing I've learned about watching soccer, Joel, and correct me if I'm wrong, but usually when a team plays a final, the other team they're playing is usually really good because they made the final too. So you're not always going, oh, he should be 12-0 in finals for us to consider him a good coach.
Yeah, and when he's been bested, it's by the minimum difference.
Right.
He's never had like I don't recall, at least I don't recall seeing Tigres get
They
thoroughly
they
get
had
their asses
one.
handed to them.
I mean, not like they're, but like against America in the Conca Champions, I think they ended up losing either 2-0 or 3-1. So it was definitely by more than one goal.
But I
But
mean, I'm talking like a Toros Nesa, when they play that final with Chivas.
Norway versus
Mm,
Honduras.
Oh, we're saving that one. That's just bad. I was gonna say is bad what happened to Max, but it could be worse. Way worse.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, but
very
I'm saying,
unfortunate.
but we haven't seen them get like thoroughly outplayed, where it's like the team just crashes bad. They'll get bested, but I mean, not, you know, it won't be by much.
Right. So at that point, then I mean, at what point do people realize, this guy's actually been pretty good? But or is it because, well, it's because he plays this very conservative style when it comes to, and yet it somehow works. So I give Tuchel all the credit for doing what he did, and he hasn't announced his retirement yet, Joel. So it's looking like he's
No,
ready for one
I,
more shot.
no, I was going to. I would say you were right. Uh, they are gonna gun for that international title. They are gonna go for the Conca Champions, and then there's the other tournament, the recently created one. What is it called? The League Cup or the
The League's Cup, yeah,
the Leagues Cup? There you go. Um, but but yeah, that's missing, and I don't know if you heard the quote from Gignac, and he's he sounded very Mexican, and he said, "I'm not retiring until I win that pinche
Really?
copa." He said, "He said esa pinche copa," and I was like, "Damn, he's he's really embraced it." I had seen another one where they did a close up, and he's arguing with a player, and you could tell he's telling him, "No mames." It's like, I was like, "Wow, this guy is just
Oh,
he's
I
he."
told you at the end of the 25th, so the first 3 months he was in Mexico. They interviewed him after they beat Pumas in the final, and he spoke Spanish perfectly. I mean, perfectly. So yeah, it's very impressive how quickly he was able to acclimate to yeah, because Monterrey is such a tough place to live. Joel, with all their
Yeah,
you know fancy clothes stores and fantastic restaurants and great night scene you know and it is a very nice city, Monterrey. So good for good for Gignac, and he's obviously embraced. I think that he and Tuca are going to have their farewell tours next year, and
yes,
let's see how much silver they can collect on the way, and who's gonna bet against them.
yeah. No, I do think they're gonna put all that money into that. Not money, but other marbles into winning that the
They're going to
Conca.
commit
It,
resources to the Conca champions.
well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's what That's gonna be their priority. And I mean, they were very close,
Right.
but yeah. So I think they could do it. I mean, they already signed Diego Reyes, correct?
They have,
And
and I don't know if they, and I know that there's some players are going to be on the outs. Some guys. I mean, they have a lot of. Tigres has the luxury of being able to cut guys like Lucas Serrayan and Ener Valencia. They're gonna sell them to other teams in Mexico, make a pretty decent chunk of money, and yeah, I mean they'll probably. I got to tell you, if I were a promoter, the player I'd be trying to get to Mexico for the next season,
who?
James.
Oh, yeah, I was hearing about him. Doesn't seem to be getting much offers.
Yeah,
He would be and he's a good player.
he's a great player, and he would
He
be
would,
outstanding in Liga MX.
yeah, yeah. Let's see where, unless MLS beats him to it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this it'll be an interesting test to see where he ends up, Joel. See, because I mean, you got a guy who's gonna what is he? He's 27, James. So you've got what two, especially if he starts slowing down. I mean, he can play a position where as he starts slowing down, he probably end up getting better. I mean, Ruben Sambuesa is in his mid 30s, and he still has a his shelf life in Liga MX. So, he's got at least at least one more season in it for sure. So James could have a very nice long career in Mexico, very comfortable career. And there's only a handful of teams that can make that kind of move.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Tigres Monterrey.
Tigres, Monterrey, Club America, and maybe Cruz Azul, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I can't remember in recent years Cruz Azul bringing in like a top caliber player. Uh, you know,
Right. It's been a long time since they've brought in a gun like that for sure.
yeah, Roque Santa Cruz doesn't count. He was already
Broken. He was
literally on
he
one
was
leg.
he was broken
They,
Santa Cruz at that point.
he brought him in a
Yeah.
wheelchair with
And again, no, to no fault. I mean, you got to love a guy like Roque Santa Cruz to be as as injury prone and still somewhat at least be a presence enough to you're going to score some, but people still respected what he did, even though, like you said, he was like at 30% of his capacity. So yeah, they do have. I think it would be a smart move for Liga MX team to do that, because I think what the other part of what you said, as I'm sure something that is being considered very much, especially on the East Coast. Maybe with the new franchise opening up in a part of the country that could really benefit from a player like that, like Inter de Miami.
Yeah, that would be. Or what about what is it, Austin?
Austin FC? No, Austin FC. They've got their. Well, you know what? Um, do you think MLS would let a player like James go to Austin FC over Inter de Miami?
No, I really do think they would push for Miami.
Yeah, but of course we are. You know, we jest. You know, we're jesting. We're jesting. So it'll be an interesting test if he does come to this part of the world. I think that those are the two leagues that could really benefit from having him. And this is going to be a big test, I think, this summer for both of these leagues to see if who can get him, because he is available. So
Yeah,
where does he end up, Hoyle?
I think he wants to stay in Europe, so I think that's going to be his main.
Okay, so let me ask you. So he would want to stay in Europe and make less money, you think, than come to either U.S. or Mexico and make more?
Well, I don't know about less because it depends what team gets him. I mean, unless you're saying that they would, I'm guessing he's making close to 6 million.
Right.
So they, you know, that's
But do you do, but
that's
my
about the
question is,
highest
do
the
you think,
players.
right? But do you think that he would make that for his next team in Europe? Because I don't
Well,
think he
yeah,
will.
well, that's what I'm saying. It depends which club, you know, he would have to go not top three, but just below that,
Right.
But no, he can't go to no mid-table team. I don't think they would pay him that.
No, he'd have to go to a team that maybe is making a champions run for the first time, so they have a little
Yeah,
extra money to spend.
like yeah, like let's say he stays in Germany, maybe if he goes to Dortmund,
Right.
then uh, that's just saying.
But he still belongs
Suposición.
to Real Madrid.
He's still. Oh yeah, man,
Yeah.
and they need. I don't think Sisu wants him.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah,
he didn't pan out. He was supposed to
man,
be Ronaldo's replacement.
and they need that money for Hazard, the
Man,
Hazard
that is see
expense one.
that to me is the difference between Real Madrid and Barcelona would never make a move like that. They would never spend that kind of money for a player who's on the who's going to give you diminishing returns instead of increment. Seriously, they just would never make a move like that. But Real Madrid would, they can make a move like that because I mean they look at it year by year. If they don't win everything in one year, we're gonna load up for the next one and try and win everything. So they'd be willing to overpay for a year for one good year or 2 years, but it just didn't work out with James, so he has to move on. All right, Hoyt. So we're talking about players that have been gone through a process of development since most of them at the very earliest 13, 14, maybe some even earlier than that. And these are out of how many millions, the absolute best, the professionals. Part of that step process in the journey for some, not for everyone, is to play in the national team U teams, the U17, the U20, and Mexico played is participating in this spring's U20 World Cup over in Poland, and they were in a group with Italy. They were in a group with Japan and also with Ecuador. So a very difficult group. A group I believe you mentioned last week where all three participating teams did very well in their qualifying, and they had very good qualifying runs. So they're obviously strong teams, and Didn't go so well for Mexico, Joel. They lost the first game to Italy 2-1, where they were outclassed and then really outmuscled. They were outmuscled again, Joel, by the Japanese, and they lost 3-0, which at the time I think is one of the, outside of the 3-0 against Sweden and the 6-0 against Germany uh, in the uh, in the 1978 World Cup. Probably the worst loss in a FIFA U tournament.
Well, I think it's the only time that Mike's at the under 20 level has has failed to make a point because they lost all three games. So yeah, I think at the under 20 level, it's the worst. It's the worst showing.
The worst showing. So it's the worst showing ever.
Yeah,
And there was I'm not gonna say a lot of finger pointing, but a lot of self examining, a lot of autocritica by people that aren't necessarily have any kind of knowledge of what the reality situation is. But everyone has an opinion, and we respect that. A lot of people saying, well, it's because of this, or it's because of this. Uh, 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 some people said that there's just not enough. We talk about this all the time, but I think the one that seems to have come up a little more, and it's starting to come up from players even and other coaches, is the fact that it's not necessarily that Mexico doesn't have talent; it's that they don't have folks to help that talent really achieve a level of excellence. And
yeah. Well, not only that, John. I think as it tends to happen, sometimes you just get it wrong. You know, so I think we go. A lot of people. I say a lot of people. A lot of like the media have gone straight for the jugular. And with the hope we're placing blame, but sometimes you just get it wrong. You put the wrong coach. That just is not saying the coach is incompetent, but he was just wrong for that job. And then the coach can also mess up and just select the wrong players. And then to top it off, you get a group that like a group of death or with a really strong group, and that's just recipe for disaster. But it could happen to anyone. I mean, we've seen world class coaches get to the World Cup and not make it out of the group stage. Sometimes with these very talented squads. So I think I, I wouldn't question the talent so much. Yeah, the team looked bad, but I feel there was a lot of like smaller mistakes, some that could have been avoided. I think this is where having someone like Teclos overseeing the project would have helped, uh, and not having someone like that, um, so to oversee and make sure. I think
well,
that hurted the team.
here's the part that I don't understand. Okay, so Gerardo Torrado, and I like Gerardo Torrado. I think that he's
Yes,
going to eventually be an incredibly good executive because he has uh, and he has the smarts, he has the ability, and he understands what it took as a player to. And so I think that he could be a very good, but to just throw him to the wolves like that from the very beginning to say you're going to be the director of national teams. I
yeah,
mean, you give that to La Puente, you know, someone who understands every level of
yeah.
of what it takes to run an organization like that. I mean, what experience does Torrado have in coming up with uh hiring a coach for tournament and planning and he's only been a part of that as a player. Never another capacity. To me, it's just it boggles the mind that they would throw. I mean, throw somebody like that into that with zero experience. And I think the world of Gerardo Torrado. Don't get me wrong. I think one day he's gonna be a really good executive. But he asked you. I mean, that's like asking you, Joel, to
Oh,
when we finally incorporate, and you've been a columnist and a writer, and we're gonna say, Joel, we're Cantina MX Inc. You are now the CEO. Go do all the CEO stuff,
yeah, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't know where to begin. Um, no, yeah, you're right. You're right about that, Torrado. I don't know what his involvement was with this.
right?
We don't know actually.
Yeah, we have no idea. So I'm one of those guys who's just making an assumption. You're absolutely
huh?
right. You're absolutely right. We
No,
have
no,
no idea what happened. But please continue.
no. I'm saying as far as his function, because you're talking about Torrado, but I don't for the under 20. When it comes with under 20, we don't know who has been calling the shots. I was looking into Diego Ramirez when he was. I was trying to look for info when he was presented,
Right.
and I couldn't find anything. It just said I just saw like two blurbs, new coach, and this was what he did, but not like an official like press, where you have someone announcing him. Nothing like that. So I don't know. I don't know. And just to go off of Torrado, yeah, with this fracaso, the press now has something to go off of,
Exactly.
and so we got the Gold Cup coming up, and we have like half of the team dropped off to injuries and other and whatnot situations.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, all the lights are gonna be there, and yeah, I think Torrado's gonna take some of that, might take some of that blame. I mean, it's like I really don't know what his function is. Like what is he? You know, what is his
If
duty
I'm
in
not
the team?
mistaken, the title of his position is Director de Selecciones Nacionales. If I'm not mistaken, I
Oh,
thought.
okay, you're right.
So
So
he's basically the Nestor position, right?
oh
What
damn,
isn't that what
okay,
Nestor was?
yes he is. Oh, and so wait, because Cantu is leaving.
Right.
I think he's leaving after the Gold Cup.
Yeah.
So that's the guy who's gonna get sacrificed if things go wrong. So and he's gonna get replaced. There's already some names floating around. I don't know them yet, but I was hearing about it. Um, okay. Well,
Well, he was
well, wait,
never.
wait. I
He was
need to dial
never.
it back.
He was never. I mean, Yon de Luisa he wants his guys in there, and Cantu's not one of his guys.
No, okay, I need to dial it back then on what I was saying about Torrado. I didn't know that was his position. Uh, you know,
Right.
I didn't know that's what it was. But yeah, I think giving him that, because then okay, he's in charge of all of the selecciones. So I mean,
I
if he
I
appointed
believe.
Diego, that's
Well, and that's
oof.
before we go on and talk about that, let us make sure. But I do believe that's I thought I read that. I could be wrong, but I want to double check it here. A ver, a ver, a ver, a ver, a ver, a ver. Director deportivo. So not director de selecciones, director deportivo.
Okay,
All right.
there you go.
All right. Well, that makes me feel a lot better. I mean,
That's,
again, nothing against Jorge, but I think that you have to, take the steps to get there. And obviously, this is one of the steps. He was there in
yeah,
Poland, man. He said, yeah, we did not play well. This was not a good performance.
yeah. I think Cantu might be the one of selecciones. But he's leaving. I think
Yeah,
he's leaving. I don't
and
know what
and and
happened.
and, and frankly, good riddance. Again, nothing against the guy, but I mean, it's just, I mean, did in the past 15 years, have you? Oh man, Guillermo Cantu really put together a great team, or really, he's just, you know,
No, and I do think because I was reading about one of the reasons why Teclosas left, and they said that he was against Ramirez being appointed
man. When I don't know
as
if it's true or not, but yeah, go ahead. I will.
yeah, but I'm saying and that's like his specialty, the youth, you know, because he's worked with that for so long,
Right.
and he's does a great job at identifying talent. And so if it's true what was written that he wanted Tena, I mean, who won Olympic gold, and you have a coach like that that has been successful at club level and youth level. It's like,
Right.
why not take that guy? Like, why
Right.
would you just
And not only that,
send?
but he's at a point in his career where he can just do that for the next 10 years, just be the U20 coach, you know,
eh,
and just let
You,
him be the coach for 20, for 10 years.
yeah, and John, we're right back to this because I remember around the time of was it the Hershey, Pennsylvania, and then they had
Right.
Torrado on that team, Torrado and Marquez. Was that under 20 or was it for
Well, it
Olympics?
was for Olympics and it was for the
Yes,
2000 Olympics and
yeah,
they didn't make the Olympics.
yeah, and that was they had some good players there. They had some of the Atlas guys and Torrado and yeah, Marquez. I mean, to miss, that's
Yeah.
who ended up being a world class player. So I mean, I would say some of our listeners just because Linus and JJ Mack crashed out like that doesn't mean that they're in trouble. I mean,
Nah.
Marquez couldn't get out of qualifiers, and Marquez is a historical player. But and I remember like going way back then, some reading criticism, and that was what like in 2000, John.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like 20 years, and they were
Right.
saying how and I can't. It's been that long, man. I can't remember who was writing this, but they were talking about how Mexico doesn't take advantage of their own resources, and they were naming like they were naming coaches that are just without a job that you could easily appoint, and then you could have someone because the person that coached that team, it was like an assistant to Manuel Lapuente. I don't remember his name, but he never really amounted to much as far as a coach. And you give him this talented generation, thinking it's going to be a walk in the park, and and they end up missing out on an Olympic tournament. And so it's kind of the same here, where they give a team with two very talented players that could be iconic.
Right.
At least they have that potential, and they give it to some coach with almost no experience, and then result is what we got. But even like back then, because it's like you have someone like Bora, and it's like you could just dude will know what to do. He's a specialist in those type of things. God. So yeah, sort of the same now. We have some of these other talented coaches that for some reason the Federación overlooks.
Yeah, it is unfortunate, and that's something that I've discussed on this show many times. We joke about it, but it is very true. Is that a lot of guys that get hired for stuff like this, and not just stuff like this, but just in the entire. And it's just like it is in any other business. It's going to be friends of friends, godsons, cousins,
Yeah.
in-laws.
Well, right there. Let me right there for those cantineros who may not know. The coach Diego Ramirez is the son of Chucho Ramirez, who was.
No, and again, and we're not saying that was that was the reason he got the gig. I mean, he was Pio Herrera's assistant, which I'm sure also helped. But the guy was connected. He
Yeah,
didn't have to. Uh,
to submit an
he didn't
application.
exactly. He didn't come out of nowhere to go into coaching. He's been around it his entire life, and again, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like you said, I mean, would you rather have, he can get experience like that, maybe with doing other things before he gets, before he's in charge of something like that. But
I, I would
go ahead.
I would have started him at the under 15 with under 17. They do have an under 15, but maybe
They
under
don't have
15 and then carry them up until under 17. And if he's doing good, sort of what they did with Potro,
right.
and Potro Gutierrez, who was given from the under 17, and he took a group all the way to the Olympics. So something like that, because to me this under 20 some these two players could be very important, not for this upcoming World Cup, but for the 2026.
Right.
These are these guys are going to be like the some of the main ones too that Mexico's going to have their hopes on.
So, one of the arguments, Joel, then were at least the one from people that we know and respect and are speaking from experience is, the biggest problem is the fact that they're just the teaching is just not very good. It could be better. We heard that from Jimmy Lozano. Someone who went through the youth program at Pumas, became a starter at Pumas, became a national team player, national team starter. Came within a whisker of making the world. Probably should have made the World Cup. He had a drop in form. A really good player for a solid number of years. And now the Olympic coach. And Jimmy Lozano does have experience. He has been coaching youth teams for about 4 or 5 years. He did it at Querétaro. But again, another guy who is this really the guy you want to have this, in his hands? Again, I like Jimmy Lozano. He's a great guy. He was a great player. I think he's a good coach. But does he have enough experience to do this? Or he said, are these the gigs that you leave for the real wizards, the real teachers, the teaching coaches? So definitely something for Mexico fans to consider. And again, one of the things that I found real interesting, and I thought it was a very similar to the situation we have here in the States, where another gentleman, a friend of the show, actually, Michel Richaud, was talking about how in the U levels in Liga MX, they're more worried about winning the U17 than anything else. And he says that, and that kind of goes along the lines with what Profe Uribe, who, by the way, as we talk about how winning shouldn't be important at the youth levels, rubbed it in our face, Joel, that his U8s made the quinto partido of the tournament that he was in.
He did.
Rubbed it in our face. And of course, every time the prophet comes on the show, I mean, within minutes, we have to make sure that he understands some things.
Is that so? Who made you pope in this dump, huh?
I niveles on the show. Prophet comes on and starts. He comes out guns blazing every time. Hopefully, he'll come on the show tonight. We do need to have Prophet on the show tonight.
Yeah, it's been a while since he's graced us with his presence.
So winning is more important, Joel, than according to some folks at the U levels, which is, and his point is, wouldn't you rather, instead of winning a trophy, send 5 guys to the first team? Wouldn't that be more fulfilling than winning?
Wait, send 5 guys?
Yeah, from your U17 team to the first team. Wouldn't that be a more, shouldn't that be the goal for the U17s instead of winning tournaments?
Oh yeah, I agree. But I mean, I think at that age, what happens is that a lot of the players are going into their adult bodies, and some of them just don't make the cut. And we've seen a lot of players that they're a beast at that really young level,
right?
And then once they're much older and they're competing under 20, under 23, it's just, I don't know what happens, man.
Well, they peak early. It happens. I mean, everybody's different. For everyone, like you said, the biggest issue that Mexico has, in addition to this, is just there's just not enough bodies are being looked at, and not enough players are being looked at. In my opinion, I think if they could just and as Tom Marshall wrote earlier this week, what is going on in Mexico City? Why isn't Mexico City supplying players to the entirety of the league? I mean, 1/4 of the population in Mexico lives in Mexico City, and there's definitely not 1/4 of players in Liga MX that are from Mexico City.
Yeah, and some of the most iconic players have come out of El Defectuoso. Yeah,
Hey,
Hugo
hey, hey, hey,
Sanchez.
hey, hey now. No. Again, I see now I'm gonna have to play it for you.
Is that so? Who made you pope of this dump, huh?
You know.
No, Mex City though has been home to Hugo Sanchez, Cuauhtemoc Blanco, Beto Garcia Aspe. Really big names.
Not just
The list could go
Picolín,
on,
but Picolín dos.
but yeah, not just one, but two
Yeah,
Picolines.
two Picolines. What other city in Mexico can lay claim to that?
Yeah, but even just saying Hugo and Cuauhtemoc, that's two of the top three of all
Yeah.
time.
They just
And then Borja too, and Borja was, what was it, back in the 70s? He
right,
was pretty much Mexico's top player at that time. What was
right.
it, 60s? In the 60s?
In the
60s?
late '60s, early
Yeah,
'70s.
yeah. So, but
He
he
was he
was,
was the first one that went from Pumas to America.
yeah, but he was one of the first, like, known players, like,
Yeah, he was
like
well,
ídolos,
he was good looking. Let's
He
be
was
honest.
galan.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, the number of really talented players, it's just so many coming out of there. Must be the water, Yon. But
Well, it's not just the water. It's also the fact that you play at altitude, so it's a little different for you. So when
it
you go to the
is.
spots, you tend to do well.
It's a
You know,
hotbed. But you know what's happening? Like, for example, because that's Argentina has Buenos Aires, Brazil has like Sao Paulo, Mexico had DF, and for some reason they're like, well, we need to expand, and then they just started looking elsewhere.
right,
It's like they had the the diamond mine, and they were unearthing all these gems, and it was like, maybe we could find some in Chiapas. Let's go over there, and then they just stopped. So it would be kind of the same, like if Brazil all of a sudden started taking teams out of like Sao Paulo, or you know, let's move these teams further down the republic.
right.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. What again, again goes back to what I said earlier about
Yeah,
Mexico not knowing how to take advantage of what they have.
exactly. You are exactly you're
it's
exactly
like,
right there.
it's like, yeah, if I found a Hugo and a Cuauhtemoc, I'm gonna keep digging in these areas. Um,
Yeah, I mean, only the two most iconic Mexican players in the last half of
and,
the
and they're not
20th
too
century.
far from each other, when we think about it.
Right.
Right,
No.
right around the time Hugo quit, because Hugo played the '94 World Cup. I always say quit, but retired. And Cuauhtemoc he was already at what was it, the 1995 Gold Cup? What's it, 95 or
96.
96?
96.
96. So, I mean, that's,
Yeah, Ugo was still playing in '96. He was playing at FC Dallas.
yeah, but I mean, selección,
Right.
we're like selección, and it's like, you know, um, yeah, and there's more. If you go through the list of players, you'll find so many. And yeah, I don't know what's going on right there. We need to
Well, and
send a letter
it
to.
used to be for uh, for years that the base of the national team was with their Mexico City players for decades even. That's just the way it was. But that no longer the case. Joel. And one thing I do want to mention about Mexico City players, we're talking about Topicolines. Remember how embarrassed Martin was when he was talking about his great book, the Entrevistador, where he interviewed, he goes on there, we interviewed all the player, Ronaldo and Messi
Yes,
and Chicharito and Rafa and Hugo, and just all these great figures in the world of soccer and Mexican soccer. And I asked, so I guess Picolin is going to be in volume 2, and he was he was just had he was so embarrassed that he didn't include Picolin in volume 1.
he should have been.
Yeah,
Maybe even the cover. You
absolutely.
know,
Absolutely. Now, Joel, I do want to mention before we talk Gold Cup, I do want to just circle back a little bit to the final fallout where we asked as Tigres the team of the decade. The other question is Tigres should Tigres be considered a quote unquote grande? And of course, that brings out all the grande fans know that there's no possible way. A litany of reasons why. So my question to you, well, first of all, Joel, should Tigres be considered grande, yes or no?
Well, I'm gonna, cause I had already said yes, but that's cause I'm thinking like 5 years down the line. But for the sake of argument, as of right now, like a historic grande, no.
No.
I would say current, yes. But if you start comparing them to like Pumas, Cruz Azul, and America, no, then yeah, they still need some catching up. But I mean, we need to remind people they just started in their crusade. It's been the last 10 years for them.
Right.
So I mean, they're making good progress. So yeah, if they stay the course, yeah, they're very close to getting there. I mean, let's not forget they did play a Libertadores final, and then they recently lost a Conca
Right.
Champions final.
Well,
I mean, that's
I think what another thing that people don't seem to understand about the Cuatro Grandes, and again, I agree with you. I think Tigres right now is the glamour team in Liga MX right now. There's no doubt about it. They're it's and they have been for about the past 2 or 3 years. And but they're very popular and they have great fans. But how many fans do they have outside of Monterrey? And how many fans have they gotten outside of Monterrey? Do people go to Morelia in their Tigres shirts to see Tigres play? And the answer, quite frankly, is not yet. Like you said, historically, no, because that's what Cruz Azul has. That's what America has. That's what Chivas have, and that's what Pumas. Even Pumas has that. We watch when Pumas goes to Morelia, there are a ton of Pumas shirts in the stands.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it's gonna take them. It's gonna take them a bit longer to, and of course, they're gonna need to have some consistency, because if they were to no longer win, it'll go away. Like what happened with Toluca. They had that, that really great run.
Right.
And then once that dried up, they lost a lot of like their alternate fans. But yeah, I could just the way the team's been managed, and then having that huge financial backing from Cemex. Yeah, if they stay the course, within 5-10 years, without question, they will be a grande. I mean, they're already doing stuff like that, where they have like a player like Gignac, who was a French international, and then, pretty much half of the team is like a mini selección. All of these guys are from the different national teams, and they win the title, and right away they announced Diego Reyes, who's Mexican national, and they already have him tied. So that's kind of the stuff like the big teams do, where they're constantly bringing in high quality players.
Right.
They won't get stuck, and that's where I think a big frustration is for my Chi hermanos, where they get a player like Pizarro, and the team can only hold on to him for like 2 years. They just can't afford to keep him.
And which is funny because they spent so much just to get him. So it is a very unfortunate situation for Chivas.
Well, I mean, Monterrey.
But what you talked about the Tigres with, out of their 11 players, 8 of them play for a national team, for their national, or have played for the national team. Obviously, Gignac doesn't play for France anymore, but even when he was,
he got to play a Euro Cup.
Yeah, and came within a
Because,
half a squint of being a national hero.
oh man, yeah,
You remember because he hit the post at the end of in stoppage time in the second half. He hit the post.
yeah, that would have been the clincher, and he would have put Liga MX in the map, at least for a month. At least for a month, we would have
Yeah,
been
absolutely.
the
Because at that time, he was he and they were in their honeymoon phase, and he did the Libres y Locos when he scored for them in a friendly, and he would have done it in the final.
yeah,
People go, and then that would have been a worldwide. Alas, it didn't happen. Unfortunately but again, so Tigres, and it reminds me of I remember one time I was watching I forget what game it was, but I think it was Chelsea, and like every single one of their guys at one point were like the national team starters on their team in that position. Just nuts, just absolutely bananas. It's like,
yeah,
and then I remember watching I think it was Argentina Ivory Coast in the '06 World Cup, and half the guys are teammates. There was like five guys that that played on the same team with Ivory Coast, and it just and that's what people want Mexico to Liga MX. That's what Tigres brought to Liga MX, and America is almost the same way. They had two players announced to be on the Colombian national team. They have Mexico national team players. They have Argentina's national. The goalie Marchesín.
yeah, that's right.
How can Chivas compete with that? How can Pumas compete with that? How can Morelia compete with that?
Yeah,
It's very difficult.
yeah, it's very difficult, and that's where Monterrey comes in, and of course FEMSA. So yeah, and we saw them win the Conca.
Right.
So
You know,
there's the opposite though, because they've won like 3 Conca champions, but they haven't been able to win the league title in 9 years.
right. No, they've
So
won four
they're
Coca champions, but you're right. They
fourth.
have
Well, there you
they
go.
won it 3 years in a row.
Yeah, but I think and this is where we go with the criticism, where it could be very misleading when we're hearing the Mexican press and then they start doing their talking points. And of course, it's always to be sensationalist.
Right.
And yeah, well, one of the things, and it's not an excuse, is just that Tuca being Tuca, he never really prioritized a lot of these international tournaments just because and I would say like the business model as well, like for the Mexican teams is that's the most important tournament, the league tournament, as far as television and sponsorship goes.
Right.
So that's always been like it's a big reason why he's never been sacked.
Yeah.
He'll deliver. I mean, Tuca will deliver. Uh, and
But of
so
course,
he's
they'll find a way to criticize that too. Exactly. It's just um,
yeah. When he was at Chivas, because he turned down a Libertadores. It would have been the second because Chivas participated in the very first, and then for the second one, uh, they got invited. It used to be by invitation, and he turned it down. He told the FO, you know what? We need to concentrate on the league. Probably told him, hey, well, choose a tournament. Choose a tournament because we can't play both. And of course, they're always going to choose the home tournament just because they're bound to make more money off of, just the different venues.
right.
Um, yeah. So and that's still the case of with Liga MX. The local tournament is how they generate the most money. They're not, these tournaments aren't exactly Champions League. They don't, as much as fans we're passionate or like them. When it comes to the moolah, they just they don't pay out as much.
Right. They certainly do not. And one thing I noticed about Tigres in the last season was that they didn't. Usually they they kind of front loaded the season where they would try and win the Apertura, but they never really kind of got rhythm for the other stuff. So this I noticed that Tuca in the first season was really rotating a lot of his players, so he was keeping his players fresh for the Apertura, I think, or rotating through more players rather in the Apertura, so that they could make the commitment to play the Conca Champions and the and then in this tournament. And obviously it paid off for them because they made the final in both and they won one and came very close to winning the other one for Tigres. So I think that's what we're going to see again next year. People say, what's wrong with Tigres? Oh my God, they're in sixth place. And it's going to be probably because Tuca's doing the same thing. He's rotating his guys so that, if they make the Liga great, we'll play it. I mean, remember in the Apertura, they lost they lost the Pumas in the first round. Tigres did. The Pumas. Let me say that louder for the people in the back that hear. They lost the Pumas, and I mean seriously. I mean I'll play it. But I mean that was pretty shocking.
Yeah, it was.
So yeah. And then of course they do what they did. Well, we should probably wrap it up with a little Gold Cup talk. Gold Cup preview. I'm actually excited because I'm going to get to go to AT&T Stadium up in Arlington to watch Mexico play. I think it's Ecuador, and I'm going to ask Tata some questions, and we'll see how that we'll see how that goes. We'll see. It'd be very interesting. Another player could be out. Joel Carlos Salcedo he did play a little bit in the final, but he was injured in the first leg, and he only played like 3 minutes in the second leg of the final. So he may be somebody that is not going to be at 100%. So that could be another casualty for this Gold Cup. And
he said he has a knee injury.
So my question to you is: would you risk him? I wouldn't risk him.
No, I wouldn't.
He's a starter.
And seeing that he missed out on the final, I wouldn't. He's thinking of not going in because of his knee injury. And yeah, he didn't really play the final, so it's not like he's making it up. Because we've seen recently a host of seleccionados dropping out. Just recently as well, Aquino announced his retirement. He wants nothing to do with the tricolor anymore.
Wow. I like Javier Aquino. He was he had some wiggle. He actually did really well in Osorio's system. He was one of the few players that had a he understood that the diagonal run was the was one of the best ways to utilize that system at the max, and he did well with it, man. He had a couple of really good games under him, but he announced no más, huh? He said ya no me voy a poner en la verde.
Yeah. Well, Salcedo, yeah, he said, yeah, I'm done. I didn't really care for him. No disrespect, so I don't really care.
You did not rate Javier Aquino?
No, to me he was aquí. No, I just some of the games were. You know what? He was, to me, it was a big turnoff at the Libertadores.
Y usted no me va a decir qué carajo te...
Oh, that was the wrong one. Sorry.
With Tigres, he to me he looked like a pecho frío. And then at the World Cup, wasn't he Gio's sub? And just seemed like he just didn't seem up to the task.
Well, that was I will agree with you there. But I mean, remember he was in Thailand when he got the call that he was going to go to the World Cup. Like he was like a last minute replacement.
It was like DiCaprio in the movie The Beach.
Exactly. So he was in Asia, so he had to have been just. I mean, I'm not making excuses for the guy, but I don't think he was the same player back then. I think he got a lot better under Osorio, but I mean, I'm not saying that he was like a transcendental national team player, but he had a couple of moments. He he had scored a goal in the Olympics, and
Yeah,
served up some stuff. But like he just it was a very
I,
forgettable national team career. I will grant you that.
yeah, and I felt like he lacks more like character, and when he was at Villarreal, and then they sent him to Rayo Vallecano, and he would he would not even get called up to the bench, and this guy would start, traveling. I guess he'll take that chance to sightsee in Spain, which ultimately they just, sold him back to Mexico. Not, not. He is a good player, man. He's very talented, but to me, I just felt like he could have been better.
He could have been better. I'm not going to disagree with you there. He was very good defensively in that Olympics. He's just a persistent little guy. But like I said, it was just he I guess you could say that maybe he didn't live up to his he was a better professional, a better club player than a national team player. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good assessment. So yeah, he doesn't want any part of it. Uh, but I mean for Titan, he did say that he will show up to the training camp to be evaluated. So he's not exactly trying to like whistle out of the tournament.
Yeah, no, he's doing the right thing. Frankly,
Yeah.
again, and with the fact, Joel, that this doesn't provide a ticket to the Confederations Cup.
Wait,
Let's.
I thought that's done.
That's what I mean. It said it does not provide a
Oh,
ticket.
it does not.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Because of that fact, then this to me is exactly the kind of tournament that Tata Martino needs to to see what he has so that he can start planning his the qualifiers are getting harder as evidenced by what Mexico went through in 14 and what the US went through in 18. The days of beating everybody 5-0 are long gone.
Yes,
And
sir.
so you have to be very, very, very careful in qualifiers, and that to me is when you use your A guys. I don't care who you're playing in CONCACAF, you have to do it because you just never know.
Yeah, that's been the
But
thing with.
for Nations League and for Gold Cup, I'm not saying don't have have a couple of guys, but use the tournament to see what you have because those are the only teams that Mexico's playing until the next World Cup or CONCACAF teams. They're going to
Yeah.
very rarely get that opportunity to play,
Well,
and if that opportunity arises, they absolutely 100% have to take advantage of it.
well, I think this tournament we're gonna see players, and I hope they do well. And I'm looking at like Montes and like Pizarro, and those are some of the players that I think can lead the selección, going into the next World Cup.
Right.
I think those guys can be key players and replace some of the guys that are like on their way out or no longer want to play. I no longer want to play with the team.
Right. Well, we have players that don't want to play in this tournament. Hector Herrera and Chicharito Hernandez, Carlos Vela are not going to be there. But again, a huge opportunity for a player like Rodolfo Pizarro to show what he can do. We have Raul Jimenez. He did a great job at Wolves this year. He had this exact same chance in the 2013 Copa America. I'm sorry, Copa Oro, where he was the starting forward, and I think he only scored. Actually, he may have scored like 3 or 4 goals. I thought it was only 2 goals the whole tournament, but he has an opportunity. His backup has an opportunity. There are some very intriguing players to me, Joel, on this Gold Cup roster that I think are players that are gonna ultimately play very pivotal roles in the lead up to the 2022 World Cup, and especially when it comes to qualifying, because as we have seen, qualifying is going to be very much more difficult than it was even in 2010.
Yeah, and I think with so many openings, I think that leaves some room for trophy chasers to dream. You know that he can get another shot with the selección.
Yeah, well, yeah, he could. Sir, if La Trophies has a good season at Chivas, how could he not get a look?
Yeah, no, you're right. And if the way he closed the tournament is anything to go by, he could very well, yeah, be a
Mhm.
standout, and the team will need him. He doesn't seem like they're gonna
I
do
can't
any
think of
top signings.
a better guy to coach La Trophies than Tomas Boy. Honestly, just because if he can make him play the midfield the way Tomas Boy played.
Well, yeah, Tomas does have that they call him El Jefe, man. He does have that like persona, and I did see a recent change in Puli. So Pulido was talking about how he's in debt with the club, and now he wants to fight for the goal scoring, title in Mexico, which is like the big difference from we need quality players.
Right.
We need, yeah, when it's like, hey, what are you? You know, it's like,
Exactly. Yeah, when you're looking around for the quality player, it's you, buddy.
that's that's like if you're seeing a Bruce Lee movie and he's like, they're gonna get in a fight and he's like, we need backup. We need.
By the way, have you ever seen the movie where Bruce Lee fights Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Oh man, I did. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's
But yes,
outstanding.
I did. I
Outstanding.
did. But oh man, yeah, what Bully was able to fight off would be kidnappers.
That's right.
I think he could fight for the no, and I don't know if it's just the boy effect. I guess we will know as the season progresses. But I do think part of it was watching Macias and seeing a 19-year-old kid break into a team where the cards were stacked against him because Macias wasn't taken to Leon as and like he wasn't he was just there to
He
help
was a
fulfill
cast
the
off.
well no, but I mean the reason Leon took him, it was like because they just needed backup and he could help fulfill that quota for the minutes
Right.
youth, and that was one of the reasons they took him. And this guy, like, he he broke into the first team and then he became a key player and he ended up scoring like 8 or 9 goals. What he scored like 8 in regular season and then I guess 2 in playoffs.
Yeah, I think so. I think yeah, he ended up doing really well, and of course, he gets he couldn't do the that's he had to go to take the place to.
Yeah, and they missed him. But I mean, if you're Pulido and you're watching that, I mean, it's got to sting, man. You're right here and you're struggling to score what 4 goals, and you're the Chivas top transfer. You're
Well, at least he
their
has the
key
right attitude.
player, and
That's
and
like you said, that's something that I'm sure Tomas. How much of a difference does coaching really make in soccer as far as like on the field? Does it make that much of a difference, Joel? Do you think?
I'm gonna stick with the 15%. Uh, but I do think there are coaches that are like they have good people skills. They could be great motivators,
Right.
and they could get the best out of out of their players, which is like something that Piojo has.
Well, see, that's
Piojo
the thing I
can
like
get.
about Boy at Chivas is that he, as great as he was when he played, there was one guy that was better, and he used to really just chap his ass. So he always played with a chip on his shoulder. Boy, that's, and now he's at a place where, let's face it, if Chivas played with a chip on their shoulder, they would do really well. But they don't play like that. They have a more patrician attitude. And I think that's where Tomas Boy and Chivas, I think, really, really, really meld well together. because these are not the 50s Joel. The Cuatro Grandes in the 50s Joel were Guadalajara, it was Oro, Marte, and Zacatepec or León. Those were the Cuatro Grandes back then.
Yeah.
The Cuatro Grandes in the 60s were totally different than what they are now. So in that sense, I do think that Tigres would be considered a Cuatro Grande in that sense, but that's why I think Tomas Boy has a really good chance of succeeding at Tigres, because I think I'm sorry, Chivas, because I think he has the right attitude that Chivas needs to have in this day and age in Liga MX.
Yeah.
And if they reflect that, if they reflect his personality, I think they'll do really well.
Yeah, and he vouched for La Trophies because
And what's not to like from a guy that vouches for La Choice?
yeah, no, and I think that some of these guys are seeing that, especially like Trophies and Pulido. Like, dude, you're in the last. Teams aren't asking for you.
Right.
That's the reality. There's no one asking for your services. You know, like not even for free. so, so they know it's like, dude, if you don't have a good season, you're looking at Liga de Ascenso, man. You know, because no teams can really wanna pay you guys, and so I think that's the chip that you're asking for, Yon, and hopefully I'm hoping as a Chillarmano that that's the kick in the ass they need, because last season they weren't as bad as they ended up looking. At one point they were top of the table.
Yeah, in the first 3 weeks, they call what I like to use. They use the Atlas principle in Liga MX, where you start off really hot and you give your fan, oh my God, is this gonna happen? And then a month later you haven't won a game. You're like, oh. So it could go either way, but usually, unless you're a team that's used to doing that, it could go either way.
No, but then John, if we look at the games that when they were lost through and they couldn't win, they weren't exactly being outclassed or outplayed.
Well, I mean,
You
I
know?
watched a couple of games there at the end. I cannot believe that you have tricked me again, sir.
Like
That we have devolved into Chivas talk.
we
We were
did
supposed to
it,
talk.
turn
Well, you
into
know
a
what?
Chiva.
There's only one thing we can do, Joel. There's only one thing we can do. We have to have a little Chivas talk, Joel. I mean,
It is. What I mean, Chivas is like that train wreck. You, you can't. It's a wreck, and you can't keep yourself from not wanting to see it.
Well, I've always thought, Joel, and I want to ask you a couple of things about this, if you don't mind. But I've always thought that when you expect the worst and hope for the best when it comes to Chivas, and I get that. I'm as a Pumas fan who's starting to see his team kind of wither away to a shell of what they once were. I can kind of understand that was very close to being a backhanded compliment, but anyway, I've always thought that if Chivas starts doing well, and then you kind of like lift an eyebrow. Oh, like you said in the last, they've won. They won their first 3 games of the year. This could be interesting. And then depending on which way it goes, I think your level of interest gets peaked a little more. But I think that if, and I'm not saying it happens either way. I think that when Chivas are like kind of like flat struggling in the middle, like 9th, 10th, I don't think it's as interesting as if they're in free fall, or if they're consistently in 3rd, 4th, 2nd, depending on how things work out. And I think a lot. I think that you're, because of your pragmatism, you're I think that you need the proof either way before you make your decision as to how much of an emotional investment you're going to allow yourself to have in the Chivas season.
Oh no, man, that emotional investment is very little.
See, I disagree. I think that I think that it's as George Strait sings, there's a fire I can't put out.
No, I mean I do get excited, but uh, I think it's allowed me to now see the team in a different way where I don't get caught up. Like for example, I might not like Higuera, but I don't blame him for everything that goes wrong.
Right.
Which is like he's become the de facto boogeyman for my Chilla hermanos. Everything is that guy's fault, and it's not really, not really. Like JJ Mack, for example, it wasn't like he didn't just say he didn't just come out of him to say, you know what, I'm sending him to Leon. This guy was around. This guy was around when Matias was at the head of the team, and Matias had his people in charge of the youth. How come he didn't make the best out of that? You know,
Right.
he didn't take advantage of that. Neither did Cardoso. So it's like a lot of people to blame. Not just say, oh, it's Higuera.
And another question, and this is a question I ask
Yes.
all of our guests when they come on the show.
Um,
I ask them, how it happened. How. But I've never asked you how it happened. So
oh, that's right.
how did the Sorting Hat pick Chivas? Why did the Sorting Hat pick Chivas for you?
It was just meant to be. No, all my family is from Guadalajara. So that was when I started watching football. That was just for me logically one of the teams I followed.
Because
And
your family was from Guadalajara.
yeah, and like my grandparents had been, and in Mexico, they were Chiva fans.
Well, what if
So, but
what
just
if you found out, or what if when you went down to Guadalajara and you've been a Chivas fan, you're thinking, man, I can't wait to talk Chivas with my relatives, and you show up and it turns out that they're like Decos, and not even Atlas fans, but like
oh
Decos.
man, well no, it happened. It kind of happened like that, but
You have a
but
you
it
have a you
said
have
it
a you
said
have a
not
you have a
Tecos.
Deco Atlas.
No, no, no,
Oh, it's
just
worse.
that I
Oh,
didn't
Joel.
know.
Oh, Joel. Don't tell me.
No, you're going down the wrong. Maybe I
Don't
didn't
don't tell me, Joel.
explain myself. Oh no, no, none of that.
Oh, not that. Okay, okay. All right.
No, no, just that. When I started watching with a friend of. Uh, it was a friend's father. So I
Right.
was into football, and I go to my friend's house, and they would be watching soccer. His dad and his dad's friends would be there.
So
They're a
you
bunch
had
of
the
bunch of
benefit,
older dudes.
right,
Huh?
of living in LA, where
Yes.
you get more of the Mexican television programming because
Yeah.
so living in LA afforded you the opportunity because we only got like in Texas, at least where I lived in Austin, we only got the one channel. It was and they showed one game a week.
Yeah. Same. Same. But I would say the big difference was um, we had the Azteca del Norte,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
then
talking about. Yeah, we didn't have that.
and so we got to see. No, 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 not TV. I mean
No.
Azteca del Norte Stadium, the Los
Oh,
Angeles Coliseum.
oh, right.
And and so if you go back, 70s, 80s, 90s, that was pretty much where Mexican national team played about maybe 90%
Right,
of their friendlies,
right.
of their moleros, and a lot of Mexican teams would go, league club teams would go and play there. So that's how I got like super big into football. So I would go watch, and my friend's dad and his friends, they were from City Guzman, which is right outside of Guadalajara, and they were Chiva fans, and I would go and and then I'll go visit my friend. I'll end up with these old dudes just watching soccer, and they would take me with them because they were playoffs. You had to. It was closed circuit. You had to go to a bar or a restaurant and pay to go watch if you wanted to see liguilla. So they would take me with them, and then when when I went to visit my family back in Mexico, that's when I found out they were all Chiva fans too. So that just cemented it right there.
Oh,
It
okay.
was like, oh, it was
So
meant to be.
it didn't turn out that they were Atlas fans. That would have been just
No,
crushing for you.
yeah, no, it was just meant to be. It was like I was genetically predisposed to liking Chivas.
Right.
So it's just yeah. So that's
I mean,
how it
they
happened.
could have been Leones Negros fans because Leones Negros they were. I personally believe it's the second most popular team in Guadalajara.
Yeah, it could be. Actually, I had an uncle that stayed over, but like, and he was a big Pumas fan, and he but back then
I hope that
like you said,
that
they
you
all
listen to every word of advice that your uncle gave you because he
well
was
I
obviously a
missed
pretty
out.
smart man.
You know what? I missed out because he invited me to go see the final,
Oh,
and that's the '91 final with this is a Tuca Cañon, right? That's
the
how they win it.
Tucaso, the
Yeah,
Tucaso.
he does. Yeah, he does a hard shot from outside the box.
For those of you that don't know, in the 1991 final between America and Pumas, it was Tuca's last game as a pro. He'd gone back to Pumas to play his final year at Pumas because he'd gone to he was in Pumas for the better part of the late 70s, like for 10 years, and he went to Toluca. I think he played in Monterrey even for a bit. He got bounced around, but he played his last season at Pumas, and they made the final. And they were playing America, and his free kick goal in the game was the difference for Pumas to win the championship in his last game. Is his last game as a professional. Scored a free kick goal in a final.
Yeah, not just a goal, para golazo.
Yeah,
And correct me if I'm wrong, Yon. Guarding the post for Pumas was El Brody.
I believe not only that, but I mean they had Negrete, they had
Oh man, yeah, Negrete 86
Garcia
kilo.
Aspe was on, and Garcia Aspe actually that's one of the things one of the coolest things I've ever heard him say about any coach was he because they were talking about the CONCACAF Cup where Tuca just came in and ended up beating the U.S. He said in that final against America, Tuca got everybody in the middle of the field, and he said, "Listen, it says it's gonna get very real for us very quickly." He said, good things are gonna happen, bad things are gonna happen. But the most important, just screaming at him, is that we have to make sure that we maintain our order on the field. Period. End of story. And he said that's the one. He said that's the one thing that stuck with him. He says, and then because of that, he knows that every Tuca, you're gonna have to work hard to beat a Tuca team. They are never gonna just
Yeah.
It is. They are a tough out.
Well, Tuca's already. I mean, he just tied Nacho Treyes. Uh, it's going to be difficult for some other coach come in and. Well, I mean, I think Piojo is right behind that, but I mean, that's a very small list.
Right.
So I do think Tuca's already, Liga MX legend. So he has that going for him. Yeah, but Jon, before we stray off again,
Yes.
yeah, no, he invited me to that.
Tuca
He's
did?
like, no, my uncle,
Oh.
my uncle to that, and I always think back, and it's like, I wonder if I would have gone, that just epic game, and just seeing how passionate my uncle was, if I would have been a Puma. But with Chivas was easy because that was one of the games that they would show. I think they would show two games, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So I think it was one of each.
Right.
Like one America game and then or one after the other. I can't remember. It's so long, man.
Well, yeah,
But
but like
yeah,
I said, I mean, the fact that you had all those games, we did not get that living
no,
here.
no. Yeah, and then when Chivas would come and play, and I got to see. Oh man, they played some really good games. They played America a few times, and then they played. I remember them playing Napoli.
Right.
And then they played some other team from Grêmio. They played Grêmio from Brazil, and then they played a couple Central American teams. So, I mean, every summer I got to see you know, some pretty good games. So that just made it all easy and paved the way for this Chilla passion.
So it was in your blood. It just had to be
It's,
uncovered. It had to be uncovered. And then when you
it's
saw your family, it like sealed the deal. You're like,
yes,
I'm one of you. I knew it all along. I knew it all along.
yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, and I got to go over there. I just didn't get to go to the Jalisco, but I did go see them play at Tecos. Funny you mentioned it.
and
I
over
did go see them
in Zapopan,
yes, the 3 de Marzo. Really nice stadium.
World Cup Stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw, you know what? The first game I saw there though, it was and it was a free. You could go in for free, and my another uncle took me, and it was funny. Like it surprised me, and he only took me because he wanted to see Ronaldo play. So Leon had signed Wijnaldum, but I don't think he ever played. I don't know if he ended up staying with the team or if he played the whole season. But it was a friendly Tecos Leon.
By the way, I'm watching Univision right now, and they have that Heineken commercial about like you've like turn around and you miss a moment, and then
Oh
you miss the goal basically. That commercial.
no, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I'm sure you have. It's when where Andrea Pirlo answers the door because the pizza guy is here,
No, I
and of
haven't.
course, oh, dude, you have to because Andrea Pirlo's face is fantastic. he has a
Oh,
great
okay.
he has a great reaction when
He missed.
he misses a goal. It's really good.
All right, I need
Yeah,
to.
it's you need to.
I'll give it a look.
Yeah, it's he sells it very well. It's really good. Well, hold on, I have the list of Gold Cup players here. We'll close with it. Sounds like you're doing the dishes.
Okay. No, I was washing my hands.
Oh, well, I hope that. Oh, and you're not washing your hands because of surely you. Never mind. Anyway, all right. So goalkeepers. I think where it's pretty obvious that Memo Ochoa is going to play this tournament coming.
Yeah.
So it's going to because he's got at least one, maybe not, if not two more World Cups in him.
Titular indiscutible.
He could be el seis copas. Memo Ochoa could be. All right.
Yes.
So defenders. Like I said, Carlos Salcedo's out. So
Well, he's on the.
I'm
He's
gonna say
on the,
I'm gonna say he's out.
okay, because he
So
is with.
yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, he did report to Tata and his staff and to the selection doctor, and so he's being evaluated. So he said
Right.
if we see that I'm not at 100, then I might not play.
Right. So would you? Nestor Araujo is obviously going to be one of the center
Yes,
defenders. Okay, that's we can agree on that.
that's good.
So
Yeah.
if you're Tata, then do you play out of these three? Do you play Cesar Montes, Hector Moreno, or Diego Reyes? Because
No,
I know who I would play.
Who would you play, Yon?
I would play Cesar Montes.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely one of
Yeah.
my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like when they play to him and Salcedo. They played
Yes.
together before, and I really liked how
They've had a
know.
great chemistry, and why they weren't the starters in Russia was frankly, they'll definitely be paired up for sure. Yeah, so I think it should be Araujo and Montes. Nothing against Hector Moreno and nothing against Diego Reyes, but let's see what this guy can do. If he's the guy we think he is, then there's no reason why he can't start a Gold Cup game and play this entire tournament and do very well.
I think he could easily start a Gold Cup tournament.
Yeah. So that's who I would. Okay, so he has a big opportunity then if he does. The other guys are Edson Alvarez, who again is also he's not 100% either. So
No.
that's going to open the door for some, because he's the one guy that I think that Tata Martino is. He has fallen in love with Edson Alvarez.
Oh, I think we all have Yon.
Well, yeah, he's very good. He's very good.
Yeah, very promising.
He's the future captain for sure.
Yeah, you have him pegged, and I
Oh
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
I agree. El Capi Alvarez.
He is what we were expecting Chaton to be, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. 2.0.
Yep.
Hopefully
No,
they get
no,
it right
no,
this
no,
time.
no. Let's
I mean, 2.0 like updated, like
right.
hopefully they got rid of the bugs and this, Chaton XP. All right, let's go. Who's next?
Oof, oof. I don't even have a good drop for that. Oh, maybe this one. Maybe this one.
El América
Ah,
es una
I
mierda.
keep I don't have
Oh
it written
man,
down. It's blank, and I always
you
forget it
mean
when I
you
push,
mean
and it happens every time. I feel bad when we do that, Joel. I feel bad.
I'm pretty.
Yeah. I should label that button. What? Every podcast that happens, it always. I see. I think it's going to be
Oh
something,
man,
and it happens every time. And,
yeah,
I feel like I should apologize. I feel like I should apologize for that. Anyway, so Edson Alvarez is going to be a guy who's going to be a solid national team player for at least the next 2 World Cup cycles. So he will be in the mix as well if he's 100%. So there could be an opportunity there for Jorge Sanchez, who I think has a really good upside. Chaka. This could be Chaka's chance. He could he could certainly play his way. All right, midfielders. So then we have Jonathan Dos Santos. I'm guessing Marco Fabian is probably going to play a lot in this thing. Guardado. Layun is out. He's listed as a midfielder for some reason. Montes, Pineda, Rodriguez, and Ivan Rodriguez. So here it would probably be the kid from Monterrey, Charlie Rodriguez, who probably has the biggest opportunity here. And I wouldn't know who else. Maybe Eric Gutierrez.
yeah. That's another good candidate. Though all those players are good, though. I mean, I would still have Mex as favorites, even though some of these other guys had dropped off.
Right. I think that Orbelin Pineda has a big opportunity here because they put him in the position where he probably should have played at Chivas, which is on the wing at Cruz Azul, and he did relatively well. So with Chucky's absence, I think Orbelin Pineda it's gonna be between him and Roberto Alvarado to be on the roster, the 23-man
Yeah,
roster.
yeah. I would definitely put also Orbelin along with Montes and Pizarro as the players that are, have something to prove. Where this would be the good moment for them.
Right, and Montes has always, I know it's just been Gold Cups and stuff, but Montes has always delivered when he's played for Mexico. He was one of the few bright spots in Chepo's B team Gold Cup was Montes.
Yeah,
And had he not gotten hurt, Piojo was all set to start him in the Brazil World Cup. That's how much he thought of it. And then they have strikers. They have, of course, and the one is Chucky Lozano. He's out. So the one who again was just a massive opportunity is Uriel Antuna, the kid who's playing well for Galaxy. Joel, he to me it should be our poster child for what it is that we want Mexican players to do. If you're not going to get the opportunity in Mexico, which obviously
yes.
it's not going to, why on earth wouldn't you play in MLS?
Oh, and he's playing next to Zlatan.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, he could be in Zacatepec right now, second division.
That's right. I love
um,
Tequesquitengo, and I think that's a trip that we should do as CantinaMX members should take. I think if we need to do that. We need to go to a game, but we need to do a weekend where we go to like 2 games, and then that has to be on the list. Go to Zacatepec. We have to do a first and a second division game, and I vote for Zacatepec. Anyway, yeah, so he has a big chance, Joel, and then The other one, just by looking at the names on this list, is Alexis Vega is gonna make this team because no one else plays like a true nueve other than Raul Jimenez. So Alexis Vega has a huge opportunity in this tournament.
That he does. Yeah, and he has the talent. So it remains to be seen if Tata can squeeze it out of him. Hopefully, he didn't get ruined, as a lot of Liga MX fans are quick to point out that he's getting ruined at Chivas.
Yeah.
But I think he's just had a really tough season. He came from, like, at Toluca where he scored that goal against America, and
Right.
he was the next best thing. And then he he arrives at a Chivas where it was just the Chivas hot seat, and he only scored like 4 goals all season.
Right.
So still not that bad, but they're expecting better from him. And but it must be good motivation to be at the selección and have this opportunity.
Exactly. So I mean, we're going to see what these guys can offer. So it's going to be very interesting to see. And this is a perfect tournament in which to do it. And this is what's going to be available to Tata when because in after the Gold Cup in September, their games are against Bermuda.
Yeah,
and I forget who the other was. It was El Salvador, I think it was. Which actually I think is actually
no,
if you're gonna,
it's not them.
It's not them.
No, it's Bermuda, and I forgot who else, but not them.
I thought it was somebody that could be at least a good away game.
No, I mean I have it here. I just give me a second to.
If there's only some way we could figure out.
If there was only something. No, no, I'm taking the long route. So I posted the opponents on our Facebook. Here it is. It's Panama.
Panama. Okay.
We got the same time.
So again, not necessarily the best decent road game, but certainly
arguably Panama could be stronger than El Salvador.
Well, I will say this: I can't think of the last time Mexico's even won in Panama.
And yeah, if anybody would love to beat Mex as much as the Salvadorians,
that's
the Panamanians.
That's my Rita's story. The one time I went to Ron's famous Rita's in Houston. It was there during Mexico. Guatemala was playing the U.S. and Mexico was playing Panama. This was after they'd started playing against Costa Rica. Remember Jimmy Lozano scored those 2 amazing goals in like the first 15 minutes of the game. In you know what I'm talking about, in San Jose?
I remember him scoring, but not too much the game.
His first goal was a tiro libre that was just impeccable, just perfect, just a gorgeous shot. And his second goal was a header that Palomita that he threw himself. It was like 180 degrees to the ground and just smacked the header into the corner of the net. Just like you're like, oh my god, this is like, you're thinking this is gonna be the greatest World Cup campaign in history. And of course it's ended up winning. They won the game 2-1. But I forget my point, Joel.
Ritas, you were at Ritas.
Oh, at Ritas, yeah. So then they play Panama the very next game, and the same thing. Ramosito scores a golazo like in the first 20 minutes, and the only monitor that had that, Joel, because Guatemala was from the US, it was full of Guatemalan folks. Out of the 10 big screen TVs they had, and the little like 9-inch above the above the top shelf on the bar, that was where the Mexico game was. And the 10 big screens had Guatemala USA that was on ESPN too, so the guys could have been watching the game at home. And so it was me and this other guy, like the one other guy, we're watching the Mexico game. It was pretty funny. Then I go to a bar in Houston, Texas, and it's dominated by Guatemalan folks, which I thought was was great. I had a great conversation with the guy about Guatemala. He's like, this is the worst thing that could happen to us. And I was like, what do you mean? He says, because we're not gonna. It's gonna be so close, but we're not gonna. And he was just like, he didn't think that they were gonna win the that they were gonna get a chance to go. He thought they were gonna, and of course they ended up losing it in the last week. So he's like, we're never gonna get
Wow.
this chance again, and I just don't know if we're good enough to take it. And yeah,
Wow.
it was pretty cool. It was a good conversation. It was very honest. He was a good guy. So Joel, a lot of opportunities for folks at the Gold Cup. I think that would be wise to see what he has. Especially in the first, and then figure out who's playing the best and play them in the final. I mean, why not? I mean, you got to find out what you got. Find out at the most what these players can deliver when stakes are a little meatier. So hopefully we'll see a lot of new blood at the Gold Cup. And hopefully players that get the opportunities take advantage of the opportunities. Because I think if Mexico does that, I think Mexico wins the tournament. But if Rodolfo Pizarro comes out and has terrible games and is just a liability, then Mexico's not going to win the tournament. So, not that I'm pinning it all on Rodolfo Pizarro, but guys need to step up, and they have the chance here. Let's see what they can do.
Well, I've been saying to John, this is Pizarro's cup to shine, and I do think he can steal the show.
He has the he could be that guy for Mexico. He has a temperament for sure. He has a
and this is his rematch.
That's right, his revancha.
His revancha. He got unceremoniously got cut out by Osorio. But
That's right. And then he said, "Well, I can't play in that position," and I was like, "Dude, that was the wrong thing to say." But, it is what it is.
he said he's putting me in a position where I can't play my best.
Right.
And it kind of sounded like he's sabotaging me. I don't think that's what he meant, but I guess Osorio was like, well, you can't play three positions. Like I was into polyfunctional players.
Actually, I actually appreciate it with Osorio, because I think in the long run, what he ended up doing was just putting guys in position where if they had to play it in a really big game, they would be able to. And I think in the Germany game, it absolutely paid off because he had guys playing in, just because they had to be so defensive. There were guys that they like Mexico didn't panic against Germany, which they have in the past, and I thought that was really telling. It just unfortunately didn't work out the rest of the tournament, but I mean you could see like the whole
They
everything.
panicked against Sweden. We saved it for Sweden.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, Jon, on that note, we have to call it a night.
Yeah, I was looking back, Joel, at real quickly about what we said and wrote at the end of the World Cup, and we said Mexico had a chance to go into the bracket where there was like I think only two teams had one World Cup. It was just whatever it was like nothing to the bracket where there was like teams that won 11 World Cups or some, and that's where they ended up, was in the bracket of the 11 World Cups, 5, whatever it was. It's like, oh,
yeah, ouch.
Yeah, it was it was rough. I think the other one was like just England and Spain, so it was 2 World Cups, and then the rest of the World Cups were in the Mexico bracket. Of course, playing Brazil, the pentacampeon, as if that's not hard enough. So, anyway, yes, Joel, it's time for us to go. Definitely a good spot. Glad that you were able to join us, Joel, here on the CantinaMX podcast. Hopefully, we'll get as the Gold Cup rolls on, we'll start getting some more of our folks joining us here on the CantinaMX podcast. But as always, Joel, a pleasure to visit with you.
Always.
And
always a pleasure, Jon.
Now I understand, Joel, that you are a Chiva de Hueso Colorado. I think that it was there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That was I'm sure that must have been a great feeling for you as a kid, or whenever it was, maybe as a young adult, to walk in and realize that they're all wearing the Chivas stripes.
No, I wasn't to that extent. Not to that extent, but yeah.
So I mean, how do you guys like do a little go like when y'all
No,
see each other? Or,
no, we
no.
don't do. That would just be weird. No, no.
So my wife was playing for me, and and I thought it was just not true. Apparently, goats scream like people. Are you aware of this, Hoyle?
No, 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 I'm
You, sh-
not.
you should look up. You should look. In fact, I will. I don't have my one
Oh
with
man,
tonight.
so is
But
that going to be a new drop?
I'm just telling you, just look
You're
it up.
warning me.
Just no, I'm not warning. It sounds like a human being. It is freaky as hell.
I might have heard one a while, like few years back. I think there was like a YouTube video on it. But I'll look for it.
Yeah.
I'll look for it.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, man, why haven't I been using this for Chivas all along? Good lord.
Yeah, especially for the Chi Hermanos.
Oh yeah, you will definitely like it if you want to use it in that in that sense because it's pretty funny. Man, I wish I had my little. You know what? I don't think I have my estuche, but yeah, it's definitely worth worth looking up, and it'll definitely be something that I'll add next week for sure. Well, we will we'll
Yes.
talk next week, and we'll be we're trying to think of what. Like I said, it'll be more. Well, such as Gold Cup, and we have Women's World Cup, and we have Copa America, which ay, 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 which Mexico should be playing in, but a ver qué pasa. Joel, we'll talk to you next week.
Yes.
And for all of you, thank you very much for listening here on the CantinaMX podcast. We do appreciate it. We'll be on again next Thursday, about the same time, 9:30, 10 p.m. Central. My name is John Jagu for Joel Aceves, and everyone else that helps us here on the podcast. Bid you all a very good evening. Thank you very much.